Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
Hey, it's day 3 of our literature unit, and we're just focusing on the Black Cauldron, which is book 2 in a series, I think, of 5 books. And the series is called The Chronicles of Perdane. And we are now going to be talking more about the author today and perhaps learn more about him. These books were actually published quite a while ago, back in the 1960s, which is a long time ago for a lot of our listeners who probably weren't even born then. But it's very interesting because this sort of topic, fantasy and talking about witches and enchantresses and warriors and things like that has become quite popular in the last, I would say, decade. So it's kind of cool that it's come back into style or come back into fashion to talk about these sorts of books. So you could say our author was ahead of his time. We're going to learn more about him. His name's Lloyd Alexander, and we're going to start by reading through day 3.
Lloyd Alexander, the author of The Black Cauldron, did not only focus on the positive aspects of honor. In the second novel of the series called The Chronicles of Predain, he addresses the ways in which evil spreads and grows. Aran, who possessed the evil cauldron, was not content to use it to convert the dead of his battles into soldiers. He began killing innocent people solely to feed them to the cauldron and increase his armies. This was terrifying to the good people of Predain, but because of evil's tendency to spread, more tragedy was to come. King Morgant, an ally of Gwydion, saw the evil cauldron as a source of power. That temptation twisted him into a traitor and was his downfall. However, in Predain, as in our own world, resignation in the face of evil does nothing. Only a concerted effort from the forces of good can remedy the harm evil causes. Alexander was born in 1924 in the U.S. He wanted to be an author from his teenage years, but his parents feared for his financial stability and disapproved of this career choice. He continued to write in his spare time, though, even through his time in the American Army during World War II. He spent time stationed in Wales, whose misty landscapes and long history of marvelous myths deeply influenced his best-known works, including The Black Cauldron. While The Black Cauldron did not win the prestigious Newberry Medal, it was nominated in 1965. 4 years later, the final book in the Chronicles of Predain did win the prize, and Alexander went on to have a long and successful career as an author of children's books.
Okay, guys, we're going to talk about the author, whose name is Lloyd Alexander, and he wrote a series called The Chronicles of Predain, and in that series is book 2 called The Black Cauldron. So we're really just focusing on the second book in the series in this particular literature unit. And it says here he did not only focus on the positive aspects of honor, meaning he focused on the negative aspects of honor too. I think he means like the negative aspects of battle and violence, because that's not always really good. We see a lot of our soldiers who come home and are really scarred by the things they've experienced in war. So we know that going to battle and being a warrior or soldier is really hard on people's mental and emotional health, let alone their physical. It really affects them in all ways. So he is focusing on some of the other ways we can have honor in our lives besides just being soldiers and warriors and fighting in big battles. Aspect here is a noun. It just means part of something. There might be several aspects to your job, parts of your job that you like. One aspect I really hate, and that is doing a lot of paperwork, filling out forms. So aspect is used as another way to say part of something that has a larger portion or distribution of other things.
Yep, so I think there are negative aspects of honor, like war and battles and killing people and blood and violence and stuff like that. He's focusing on the positive aspects of honor, which include being kind to other people, doing favors for people and stuff like that. And in the second novel of the series called The Chronicles of Perdane, that is the actual series called The Chronicles of Perdane, and the second novel's title is The Black Cauldron. So yes, in the second novel called The Black Cauldron of the series called The Chronicles of Predain, that's the series, he addresses the ways in which evil spreads and grows. So that's the focus of that book, The Black Cauldron. He addresses these things. He talks about them. He focuses on them. He's talking about how evil spreads and grows. So we do know that evil is out there. There are people out there who are bad. We've got the devil and evil spirits and stuff like that, and they want to do nasty things to people. So yes, this book talks about how evil operates, how it spreads and grows. So I guess we can learn a lesson from this book. If evil ever shows up in the world, this will help us combat it.
So, the author talks about the ways in which evil spreads and grows. Remember, there was Iran. We knew from day one that he wanted to take and use that cauldron for evil purposes. He was an evil warlord, and he wanted to bring the dead back to life and turn them into his own mindless soldiers for his armies. He's a warlord, so of course he wants to conquer the areas around him to gain more power. So he possessed the evil cauldron through those enchantresses, of course, and he was not content or happy to use it to convert the dead of his battles into soldiers. He wanted to do more evil. He wanted to kill innocent people. So this is how evil grows, the author is trying to teach us. It starts with Iran bringing dead soldiers back to life so he can continue to use them in his old battles. But that's not good enough for Iran. He then thinks, I need more soldiers. I'll just kill people, innocent people, who aren't fighting or anything. They're minding their own business. I'll just kill innocent people so I can feed them to the cauldron and increase my soldiers. So he's a pretty evil guy to think of this. Now, if you do something solely to accomplish something else, it means that's your only purpose. You're focused on that. So solely here just means only or just. He's just using the innocent people to expand his armies.
Right, so of course he could rely on all the dead people in cemeteries all over the world.
Yeah, why doesn't he do that?
Right, to bring the dead back to life and turn them into soldiers, but he thought that wasn't enough. He wasn't content, he wasn't satisfied, so he started killing innocent people to make them soldiers as well, so he could increase the size of his armies. And this was terrifying to the good people of Predain. But because of evil's tendency to spread, more tragedy was to come. So the good people of Predain, the regular folks who went to work every day and raised kids and stuff like that and never hurt anybody else, well, this behavior was quite terrifying to them. Hey, what is this guy doing? He's killing innocent people to turn them into mindless zombie soldiers. Hey, you never know when they're going to come and kill us.
Yikes.
So, of course, they were terrified. But we're also talking about evil's tendency to spread. And here we've got the word tendency, which is a noun that just means the inclination of something, the likelihood that something will happen.
Now, King Morgant, the traitor, he was an ally of Gwydion. If you're an ally of somebody, you're on their team. You're on their side. You're fighting together with them against your enemy. But he turned out to not be such a good ally. He became a traitor to Gwydion. He saw the evil cauldron as a source of power. Yeah, a lot of times when good people see a way to gain more power, they become tempted by that, and they then turn into evil people themselves. So that was a temptation that twisted him into a traitor. Temptations are tough to overcome or avoid. A temptation is something that really makes you want to do something that you probably shouldn't. It's a desire to do something, especially something that's not good for you or wrong or unwise. Maybe you're on a diet. But there's a temptation to eat chocolate ice cream at night. Oh no, what are you going to do? So temptation is the noun form, and of course, tempt is the verb. So the chocolate cake or chocolate ice cream tempts you to eat it when you know you shouldn't.
Right, so that was a temptation. Of course, as you know, the Temptations were a Motown band, and they sang songs like My Girl and Psychedelic Shack and stuff like that. But that's probably all before your time. But in this particular case, we're talking about this temptation. Boy, I'd really like to have that, but I know I shouldn't. So yes, this temptation twisted him into a traitor. Morgant saw that thing. He saw the cauldron and he thought, I'm tired of being a good guy. I just want that Black Cauldron. And so he gave in to temptation and he became a traitor. But that was his downfall, which refers to, of course, the thing that defeated you in the end.
Well, this is probably a good time to take a break. We are going to, and we're going to let you listen to our great Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是2月份 Unit 14第3天的课程内容。我们的杂志在介绍文学作品的时候，最后一天课程都会告诉读者这个作品主要的意旨是什么，也会同时介绍作者。我们现在一起看看这个单元的学习重点吧。请同学看到第一段第2个句子。In the second novel of the series called The Chronicles of Predain, he addresses the ways in which evil spreads and grows. 好，请同学特别注意到，在这里 he addresses the ways， 这个 he 指的当然就是作者。作者处理了什么样的议题呢？就是 he addresses the ways， 方式，这个 way 指的是方式、方法。那后面用 in which， 这个 which 所代替的就是方式。什么样的方式？ Evil spreads and grows， 邪恶的力量扩散增长的方式，所以他处理了这个议题。再来，请同学看到第3个句子 Aaron, who possessed the evil cauldron, was not content to use it to convert the dead of his battles into soldiers. 所以这里面的坏蛋，他其实不是只有想要把已经死的人让他们变成丧尸，而让他自己为他所用，他更想要做什么？他还主动的去杀人，让更多的人变成丧尸，所以他并没有满足。那他原本做的事情就是后面所说的 convert the dead of his battles into soldiers。请同学把 convert into 画起来，把 A 变成 B， 我们说 convert A into B。再来，请同学看到第5个句子 This was terrifying to the good people of Predain。那在这里请同学特别注意到后面 but because of 的句子有一个 was to come， 请同学要记住 be 动词加上不定词表示未来，所以呢，就是因为这些邪恶势力他们有扩散的趋势倾向 more tragedy was to come， 就会有更多的悲剧即将发生。接下来请同学看到第7个句子 The temptation twisted him into a traitor。 这样子的引诱导致他人格扭曲 twisted him into a traitor， 让他成为一个背叛者 and was his downfall。 这样子的引诱呢，让他背叛了其他人，而这样子的背叛其实就是他的堕落。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. We're continuing to talk about the novel The Black Cauldron, which was the second novel in the series The Chronicles of Perdane, which was written by the American author Lloyd Alexander. And we're talking about the conflict between good and evil. Now, where we left off, we were talking about Morgant, who became a traitor. He was tempted by the Black Cauldron, so he gave in to temptation. He became a traitor, and that led to his downfall. He was destroyed. However, in Perdane, as in our own world, resignation in the face of evil does nothing. Only a concerted effort from the forces of good can remedy the harm evil causes. So resignation just refers to not doing anything about something. It also refers to when you quit your job, when you don't work there, you resign. Resignation refers to that process, but resignation in the face of evil just means, well, you just kind of ignore evil. You just decide to look the other way and hope it affects somebody else and not you. But hey, you still got to face evil is still there. And even if you're a good person, evil's not going to go away. You still got to fight it.
Gotta face it, unfortunately, our world is evil, but there's a lot of good in our world too. Just have to, face towards the good and away from the evil, perhaps that will work. So, yeah, as in Perdane, as in our own world, resignation, just kind of that big sigh. If you resign yourself to something, you just kind of accept that you have to put up with it. Resignation in the face of evil does nothing. Sometimes you can't just, go, oh, I can't do anything against it. You either fight against it or evil continues to spread. I think we've learned that. So only a concerted effort, meaning working together with other people, concerted effort. You probably look at that and think, concert? Concert is a music show. What does that mean? Concerted is an adjective we use just to mean to really focus in and join forces with other folks, or maybe just focusing all your attention. Make a concerted effort, a really strong effort to increase the forces of good. Now, if you remedy something, you somehow come up with a treatment to make something better. To remedy a problem is to solve a problem. Sometimes people will talk about home remedies. Hey, what do you do for a bad cold? Do you have any home remedies or treatments that I can use on myself to make my cold go away faster? Yeah, chicken soup. Sleep more. Get some more sleep, That's really important. So a remedy is some sort of way to counteract or eliminate something that's not very desirable, like evil.
Yep, to solve a problem, basically.
Yeah.
You might have some security issues in your company, so you need to remedy that problem. You need to solve that problem so that you don't have those security issues anymore. And yes, indeed, you need to remedy the harm evil causes. You need to deal with that harm, and you need to stop it. And you need to make sure people are all right and they're not affected by evil. Now, let's go on and talk about the author himself. Alexander was born in 1924 in the U.S., the USA, the United States of America. He wanted to be an author from his teenage years, but his parents feared for his financial stability and disapproved of this career choice. I don't blame his parents for disapproving of his career choice because people who want to be writers find great difficulty in getting their stuff published. I think for every book you see published, there are probably 100 authors out there who never got published and ended up working as a waiter or waitress in a restaurant or something like that. So, yes, it's very difficult to become successful as a writer. So, yes, they feared for his financial stability. Oh, you might get an article published here and there in the newspaper or something like that, but still, you're not going to make much money, and so they disapproved of his career choice. To disapprove means you just don't approve of it, you don't accept it, you don't think it's a good idea. For example, girls, if you bring your boyfriend home and he's a hippie and he doesn't have a job, of course your parents are going to disapprove of him. You will not marry that guy or we will disown you.
Yeah, that could happen, but, just, do your thing. You have to make your own choices sometimes. So he continued to write in his spare time. Your spare time is your free time. What do you do in your spare time? Everybody has hobbies or things they enjoy, but he loved to write, so that's what he'd do in his spare time. My parents didn't want me to pursue singing as a career. They kept saying, Steph, can't you find a more sensible job? So, parents worry about us. That's why they disapprove sometimes of things we want to do, like be the lead singer in a band. They think we won't have a good lifestyle that way. Well, he wanted to write. So he continued to do it even though his time in the American Army, even through his time in the American Army during World War II. So some soldiers, they would finish a battle and they'd go back and just relax and maybe sleep. Well, he would want to write. He loved to write. That tells you right there he's a natural writer. He spent time stationed in Wales. If you're stationed in a place, that's where your army troop is located. You're living there. You're going to be there for a while. You're stationed somewhere. You often see this verb used when we're talking about the Army or Navy or military in general.
Right. So, of course, during World War II, there were lots of Americans stationed in Britain, in England, and Wales, and Scotland, and wherever. They were there supporting the bombing crews that were bombing Germany and stuff like that, or sending soldiers over to Normandy at the invasion, during the invasion. But indeed, he was stationed in Wales at that time. And, of course, Wales has those misty landscapes. And, of course, Wales has that long history of marvelous myths. Those things deeply influenced his best-known works, including the Black Cauldron. So, indeed, he went to Wales, and even though he was in the army, he probably was curious about the land where he was stationed, and he talked to people, he did some reading about the place, and he thought, hey, Wales is pretty cool here. It's got these misty landscapes, which means the scenery there was really nice, and it was misty, so there's probably lots of fog there, which gives it kind of a magical quality. Like Ireland, I think Ireland also has that sort of quality as well. And because he was in Wales and had this influence, it deeply influenced his best-known works. So you can see those weird names in his novels. I think they're all based on Welsh names.
They are, yes. That's why they're a little different. But it's good to be introduced to different cultures like that. So he was there for a while, and while the Black Cauldron did not win the prestigious Newberry Medal, I call it the Newberry Award. That's what I grew up with. So prestigious means it's very highly respected. It's something that people really look up to. You might have a chance to go to a prestigious school, or you might yourself earn or be awarded a prestigious award or honor. This is a really great award for a writer, the Newberry Medal. It's given to writers of books for young people. It was nominated back in 1965, so it's an old book, but it's now back in style. This fantasy that's written is popular, along with, the witches and warlocks and wizards and warlords that we have in here. It's pretty exciting. And after it was nominated in 1965. 4 years later, the final book in the whole series called The Chronicles of Perdane did win the prize. So instead of giving that award to one singular book, they gave it to the whole series, which is really quite an honor. And it won that in 1969. So pretty cool. I bet Lloyd Alexander wanted to show that off to his parents who didn't want him to be a writer.
Well, I'm sure they were proud of him eventually. They probably thought, well,
so?
Yeah, you can't blame us for not approving of your decision, but now that you've become successful, we are proud of you anyway. So indeed, he won some recognition and an award there. And of course, he specialized in children's books. And I don't know if we've mentioned this, but this series, The Chronicles of Perdane, is written for young readers, but I guess anybody could read it. So you might want to give it a try if you're into fantasy literature of this sort. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
接着请同学看到第一段第8个句子。However, in Perdane, as in our world, 在这个世界，如同在我们的世界里面 Resignation in the face of evil does nothing。 请同学特别注意 Resignation 这里所指的并不是我们常见的辞职的意思，而是屈从。 Resignation in the face of evil 指的就是屈从邪恶。好，再来请同学看到后面 Only a concerted effort， 这里的 concerted 指的是什么意思呢？ concerted effort 指的就是同心协力、协力合作的意思。那只有同心协力才能够呢补救邪恶所造成的伤害。请同学把 remedy 这个动词画起来 remedy the harm evil causes。 这个 remedy 其实也是动词，并不是名词。 remedy 当动词的意思是补救。再来请同学看到第二段第二个句子 He wanted to be an author from his teenage years。 这里讲到了书本的作者 Alexander， 他其实从青少年开始就想要当作家了， But his parents fear for his financial stability。 但是呢，他的爸妈担心到时候呢他的收入会不稳定 and disapproved of this career choice。 因此呢不赞同他选择这样的职业， disapproved of 不赞同不认同。再来请同学看到第三个句子 He continued to write in his spare time。 In one's spare time 指的就是在闲暇的时间。再来请同学看到第四个句子 He spent time stationed in Wales。 这里呢指的就是他被派驻到威尔斯。请同学特别注意，因为他是被派驻的，所以后面我们用过去分词 ed。 再来请同学看到第五个句子 While the Black Cauldron did not win the prestigious Newberry Medal。 请同学注意 Newberry Medal 指的呢就是儿童文学里面的一个大奖，那相当有名，所以前面加上形容词 prestigious。 那另外请同学特别注意到的，这里的 while 是一个连接词，虽然呢黑神锅并没有得奖，但是呢1965年呢是有提名的。以上就是我们针对这个单元第3天所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
That is it for our lesson for today, and I have to say that talking about this novel was quite difficult because of all these weird names. So don't feel bad if you try to read this book and you have trouble with those names as well, because, hey, we had problems with those names. You might as well. But still, the story is the important part, and I'm sure a lot of you will probably enjoy this novel. Okay, from all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.